Have you ever felt something watching you in the dead of night? Not just a feeling, but a presence so cold and still that it seeps into your bones. Tonight, I'm going to share a story that's haunted me for years, about a snowman at the edge of a forest, watching me every night without ever moving. What was it waiting for? Why was it there? And why couldn't I escape its gaze? This isn't just a story about a snowman. It's about something far darker. I decided to move to a remote cabin nestled right at the edge of a dense forest during one of the coldest winters I'd ever experienced. After years of living in the chaos of the city, with its constant noise and bright lights, I craved silence, true silence. The kind where the only sounds are the wind rustling through the trees and the occasional crack of ice beneath your feet. The cabin was small, rustic, and surrounded by miles of untouched wilderness. Snow covered everything, thick and heavy, muffling the world into a quiet white blanket. When I first arrived, the cold hit me like a wall. It wasn't just the temperature, it was the feeling of being completely isolated, cut off from everything familiar. The trees stood tall and still, their branches heavy with snow, casting long shadows in the pale winter light. At night, the darkness was absolute. There were no streetlights, no passing cars, no neighbors, just a vast, frozen forest. It was peaceful, yes, but there was also a weight to that peace, a quiet tension that I couldn't explain. I told myself it was just the adjustment, the solitude settling in. But even then, something about the forest felt different, like it was watching back. I didn't realize then how right that feeling was, or how it would change everything. On the third night after I settled into the cabin, I noticed something strange just beyond the edge of the forest. At first I thought it might be a trick of the moonlight or shadows cast by the trees, but then I saw it clearly, a snowman. But this wasn't the kind of snowman you build for fun. It was unnaturally tall, towering over anything I'd seen before, with long, crooked branches for arms and deep, coal black eyes that seemed to gleam in the moonlight. Its carrot nose was crooked and pointed directly toward the cabin, as if it was watching me. What made it more unsettling was how perfectly still it was. No matter how long I stared, it never moved or blinked. I checked again the next morning, and there it was, standing in the same spot, untouched by the melting sun or fresh snowfall. It was like it was frozen in time, or something beyond time. At first I thought it was just a prank, maybe someone from a nearby town trying to scare me. But there was no sign of footprints, no disturbances in the fresh snow around it. The more I looked, the more I felt like it was more than just a pile of snow and sticks. It was watching, waiting. The feeling unsettled me in a way I couldn't explain, like the snowman was alive and aware. That night, when I went to bed, I felt eyes on me from the dark edge of the forest. The snowman never moved, but I knew it was watching. As the nights passed, the snowman remained exactly where I first saw it, unmoving and silent. No matter how much snow fell or how bitter the wind blew, it stood tall at the forest's edge like a frozen sentinel. What was even more strange was that the snow around it was always untouched, no footprints, no signs of anyone coming or going. It was as if the snowman existed outside the rules of nature. Each morning, I would glance out the window, half expecting it to have vanished or melted a little, but it never did. It was like time didn't touch it. At first, I told myself to ignore it, to convince myself it was just some elaborate prank or a trick of light and shadow. But the longer it stayed, the heavier the feeling in the cabin became, a weight I couldn't shake. That unmoving figure watching from the edge of the trees began to feel less like a snowman and more like something else. Something waiting patiently. The coldness it gave off seemed to seep through the walls, chilling the air inside. At night, when the forest was silent and dark, I could swear its coal black eyes were fixed on me, following my every move. It wasn't just a figure made of snow, it was a presence, silent, patient, and unmoving, yet fully aware. And no matter what I did, the snowman never moved. It just watched. Soon after I realized the snowman never moved, strange things started happening around the cabin, things I couldn't explain. At first, they were small and subtle, like the kind of things you might forget if you didn't pay close attention. I'd lock the door before going to bed, but sometimes I'd wake up to find it slightly ajar, even though no one could have come in. My dog, usually calm and loyal, began acting restless. He'd growl low and refuse to step near the forest's edge, his eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. The wind carried faint sounds, whispers or rustling noises that didn't match the normal creaks and groans of a wooden cabin. One night, I heard footsteps crunching in the fresh snow right outside my window. I looked out, heart pounding, but there was no one there. Just the snowman, standing motionless in the moonlight. The cold around the forest seemed to deepen, colder than any winter chill I'd ever felt. It wasn't just temperature, it felt like a presence pressing down, a weight in the air that made breathing harder. I realized I wasn't alone. Something else was there with me, watching from the darkness. The snowman wasn't just a silent figure made of snow, it was a beacon or a guardian of something hidden in those trees. Every night, as I tried to sleep, I felt eyes watching me, waiting. The strange occurrences only grew, and the snowman's gaze felt heavier, more demanding. I was trapped in a silent battle with something I couldn't understand. Eventually, my fear and curiosity pushed me to face the snowman directly. One bitterly cold night, I wrapped myself in every layer I had, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped outside. The air was sharp and biting, colder than I expected, as if I had stepped into a different world. Each step through the fresh snow felt heavy and loud in the stillness. The forest loomed around me, dark and silent, with shadows stretching and twisting between the trees. When I reached the edge where the snowman stood, I stopped and shined my flashlight directly into its eyes. What I saw wasn't just coal. There was a flicker of something alive in those black pits, like eyes that held centuries of watchfulness. A sudden shiver ran down my spine, and my breath caught in my throat. The cold around me intensified, pressing in like an invisible force. It was no longer just a snowman, it was something ancient, something watching and waiting. For a moment I felt a deep connection to it, like it was aware of my presence, studying me in return. Terror gripped me, but I couldn't look away. Then, with a sudden rush of adrenaline, I turned and ran back to the cabin, locking every door and window behind me. That night, I realized the snowman was no ordinary figure made of snow. It was a silent guardian or perhaps a prisoner, something beyond my understanding, something I wasn't meant to confront. But it never stopped watching. Even after that terrifying night, the snowman's presence lingered in my mind long after I left the cabin. It was like a shadow that refused to fade, a chilling memory that followed me in quiet moments. Sometimes, when the wind howls just right or when snowflakes drift silently outside, I feel those coal black eyes watching me from the edge of the forest, no matter where I am. The experience changed me. It made me realize that some things in this world are beyond explanation, beyond logic. The snowman wasn't just a frozen figure of winter fun, it was a sentinel, a watcher, something ancient and patient, waiting for a reason only it knew. I learned to respect the silence and the stillness of the forest, understanding that some watchers never move because their purpose transcends time. Even now, I hesitate when I see a snowman, a reminder that some things aren't as innocent as they seem. That winter night taught me a lesson about fear, curiosity, and respect, that some mysteries are better left alone, and some watchers are forever waiting. It's a story I share not to scare, but to remind us all to listen to those quiet feelings, those subtle warnings. Because sometimes, the things watching us aren't just snowmen. There's something far more unsettling. I don't know what that snowman truly was, a ghost, a spirit, or something darker. But I know one thing, some watchers never blink, and some secrets are best left buried beneath the snow. If you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain, share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you want more stories that will haunt your nights. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, keep your eyes open, and remember, sometimes, what's watching you is closer than you think.